Good evening. Thank you to our attendees for joining. We will get started in just a couple of minutes. Thank you to our attendees. We will get started in just a couple of minutes. We'd like to see if a few more attendees will join. So we'll probably get started about 6:02. Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining our virtual meeting tonight. My name is Amalia Andrews, and I will be moderating today's meeting. We will be discussing the Mid-Valley Connector project as it relates to 1175 West. In case this is your first time attending a virtual meeting or using Zoom, here's a brief overview of how we will organize the meeting. We will first begin with introductions from our panel team, followed by a presentation given by Marcus Bennett, the project manager. At the conclusion of the presentation, we will open up the discussion for a question and answer session. Our intention is to conclude by 7 p.m. and this meeting will be recorded for record keeping, and we will be posting that recording on our project website, which is midvalleyconnector.com, and shown here on the screen. At the conclusion of the presentation, I will walk everyone through how to engage with us at that time. And I think we'll go ahead and start with introductions. Marcus.
Hi, I'm Marcus Bennett. I am our project manager for the Mid-Valley Connector project.
Hello, I'm Ben White with Taylorsville City. I work in the engineering department there.
Hi, I'm Megan Leonard. I'm the traffic engineer over this area for UDOT.
Hi, I'm Russ Fox. I'm the planning director for UTA.
I'm Jeremy Harbaugh, part of the project team.
Hi, I'm Newell Jensen. I'm leading the design engineering on the project.
And I'm Megan Waters. I'm the community engagement manager at UTA.
Thank you to our panel team for introducing yourself. Marcus, maybe we could just shift to the next slide and I'll remind our participants how to engage with us during the call today. So at the bottom of your screen, you will see a Q&A button as well as a raise your hand button. You will click either one of these buttons to engage with us. If you would like to provide a verbal comment, which given time and based on the number of attendees, we'd like to allow for that opportunity, you're welcome to give a verbal comment by raising your hand. And what will happen is we will allow you to unmute yourself and then you can verbally comment. If you'd rather provide us a written comment, you're welcome to do so using the Q&A feature. And we'll go over this again at the conclusion of the presentation. Marcus, I think we're ready to get started.
Great. Thanks for getting us going. I just wanted to start out by providing some background on the project. This is a bus rapid transit project, also called BRT. Bus rapid transit is a mode that utilizes buses, however, adopts many successful elements from rail projects like Trax and Frontrunner to efficiently improve the quality of service. Rather than stops, we have stations. The stations have more comfortable shelters and seating and lighting. Rather than the buses running in general traffic, the buses will have their own lanes for a portion of the project. You can see here in these images, this is an example of the upgraded kind of station that we would have, and also a visualization of what the bus lanes would look like. The project starts at Murray Central, right next to IHC. The route would weave up to 4700 South, and this is where we would have our exclusive bus lanes for 1.4 miles. We make a great connection to Salt Lake Community College, and then the project extends up to West Valley Central, right next to Valley Fair Mall. The project overall is 7 miles long. It would take 15 minutes to get from one end to the other, and it would take 30 to 40 minutes, or it would come every 15 minutes, excuse me, and it would take about 30 to 40 minutes to get from one end to the other. We'll be acquiring all new buses for this, 10 buses that would be battery electric buses. And we are upgrading the hubs at Murray Central and West Valley Central with this project and creating a new hub for Salt Lake Community College. This project creates some really great connections between SLIC and our Frontrunner facilities at Murray Central, as well as Trax Red Line and Blue Line. And then at West Valley Central, we provide a connection to Trax Green Line. I'll point out that right in the middle of these exclusive bus lanes is 1175 West. As we proceed through this project, we form a project team. Included in our project team is Utah Transit Authority, UDOT, Taylorsville City, West Valley City, Wasatch Front Regional Council, Murray City, and Salt Lake Community College. These are our project partners. As we proceed through the project, we seek input and feedback from our stakeholders. This includes residents, business owners, and elected officials. This project has been around quite a while. It started in 2008, and the project progressed up until and through November 2018, when a public meeting was held to share the design with the public. At that time, certain commitments were made regarding 1175 West, and we'll review those momentarily. The project continued to progress, and in August 2019, a state environmental study was completed, and the design advanced up to 60%. Going forward, in December 2020, it was determined that there were insufficient funds, local funds for the project to proceed as it was presently visioned at that time. So it was decided to federalize the project. We're right here on this timeline. Since then, we've been working on grant applications and environmental clearances associated with a federal clearance and a federal project. And in December of 2021, we've resumed the design, picking up from where that 60% design left off. And since that time, it's been a high priority for us to further advance the vision for what would happen at 1175 West. Here we are having this meeting and getting ready for this summer, in which we will continue to advance our environmental clearances and our grant application. Assuming those go well, and we are able to obtain the necessary funding that is remaining on the project for it to proceed, then we would go into construction in the spring of next year. This here is what was shown to the public back in 2018. Before we jump into it, I'm briefly going to go into Google Maps here for a second to provide some context. Here we are with I-15 and 215 right here, and 4700 South in between. This is the Four Lakes Golf Course, and here's 1175 West. I'll briefly review the existing condition. Right now, 1175 West is an unsignalized intersection and it allows for all movements, left turns, right turns, and through movements. It is stop controlled on the south side and the north side for 1175 West and free flowing east-west on 4700 South. What this slide represents is commitments that were made to the community in 2018 regarding 1175 West and also access at 1300 West. What it set up was a trigger that in the event that the Four Lakes Golf Course was ever redeveloped, it was envisioned that a roadway would be built through that golf course if, again, it was to be redeveloped, that would provide connectivity to the south. If that occurred, then connectivity would at that time be provided to the north at 1300 West. Further, contingent upon the redevelopment of the golf course, if that were to ever occur, and that roadway being placed to the south, then it was committed that it would be at that time that 1175 West would become right in, right out only on the north side and on the south side. So while that was envisioned at that time, what had not been determined was what the project would look like in the interim condition before the Four Lakes Golf Course was redeveloped, or if it were to ever be redeveloped. And so that has been a focus of the design team since we've gotten restarted since this last December. There's a lot of important criteria for us to consider when we make a decision like this. And this is the criteria that we utilized for evaluating our choices for what to do at 1175 West. One of our criteria was we wanted to provide really good access to the community at 1175 West. We needed to understand how changes we would make would affect access to that community. Also, we need to 4700 South is an important east-west arterial. We would like to keep that traffic moving. And so any option that we would evaluate, we also need to understand how it affects that traffic. There have been many crashes at this intersection in the past, and so we need to understand safety implications for any options that we evaluate. Also, the project is making a significant investment in transit by installing those bus lanes. And we want to make sure that whatever we do at 1175 West is supportive of that investment. We also evaluated the cost for each option. This turned out to not be a significant factor for the options that we primarily considered, but we still evaluated it and understood it for each option. Then we take these 5 options and we develop a consensus as a team. For this part of the project, there are 3 entities that own facilities at the intersection once the project is completed. So those would be UTA, Utah Transit Authority, for the bus lanes, UDOT for the general purpose travel lanes, and then Taylorsville City for 1175 West. For this reason, it needs to be a team consensus among those parties for any option moving forward. However, we take stakeholder input and feedback as we make those decisions. So that is what we're doing today. We are presenting what we've learned so far for stakeholder input. And that will guide our decisions moving forward. These are the 3 options that we were able to refine a wider set of options of 9 down to. And we were able to see that when we understand these 3 options, we also understand our decisions regarding the other 6 options in addition to this 3. And so today we're just going to focus on these 3, but we're happy to answer questions regarding the other options that we evaluated if there are questions. So we'll start with this first one that we call the ultimate configuration. And before I get into the details of it, I'll review what the common elements are between these three options. Each option shows 1300 West with a signalized intersection, providing an access to the Four Lakes Golf Course to the south, and only to the golf course to the south, and to the north, no access to the community to the north. We also show bus lanes in blue, not because they would look like that, but just to highlight a unique element. Also, we show Atherton as a signalized intersection similar to the existing configuration. At 1175 West, for this option that we're calling the ultimate configuration, we call it that because it is what it was shown in what was presented to the public in 2018 for this portion of the design. This represents a concrete barrier going down the middle and rerouting any left turns and through movements to the adjacent U-turns. So if somebody was traveling southbound and wanted to make a left turn, they would need to make a right turn, come down to 1300 West and wait for this signalized intersection. They would get a green arrow to be able to make a U-turn, and then they would be able to proceed through the intersection unimpeded. It would be similar if somebody was going northbound and wanted to make a left turn. They would need to make a right turn, come to Atherton, stop and wait for the light, the green arrow, and then they would be able to make a U-turn and proceed through. It's similar for other left turns and for the north-south through movements. This is our ultimate configuration option. Our next option we call our partial signal option. For this option, we would set up a signal or install a signal for eastbound traffic and for the BRT, as well as for the westbound left turn movement. The westbound left turn movement is the most heavily utilized movement at the existing intersection. So that is the movement we selected to keep open of the 6 that are closed for the ultimate configuration. So in this scenario, it would be similar to the last one, except for vehicles who are making that westbound left turn. They would come to this intersection, stop at the light. That light would stop the BRT and the eastbound traffic, and then they would be able to make a left. For other movements, such as this northbound left turn lane, it would be relocated to a right turn and then a U-turn and then a through movement. So this is our partial signal option. Moving on to our shared lane option. This is similar to the last option we talked about, and it also keeps open the westbound left turn movement. However, it does it without a signal. Drivers who would be traveling westbound would need to merge with the bus lane. They would come here and wait for a gap in eastbound traffic and then make the left turn at that time. So this option would not stop the eastbound traffic, but it would stop a bus as they would wait for vehicles to make a left turn. This is our shared lane option. And again, of the 6 movements eliminated or relocated in the first option, this keeps open that one westbound left turn movement. So taking these 3 options, our next step is to look at how they fit with the criteria that we just established. So we'll walk through how each one of these options stack up against our criteria. For the first option, the ultimate configuration, this one has a lot of great marks. For transit and east-west traffic, this is as good as it could be. The intersection won't slow down east-west traffic or the BRT at all. For safety, it also performs well. There have been 2 fatalities here over the last 12 years and more prior to that. If we implement this design, those type of crashes that produce those fatalities are much less likely to repeat in the future. Also, this is our lowest cost option. Where this option does not perform as well is local access. Like we said before, this is going to require some in the neighborhood some extra travel time to get to their destinations. I'm sure some of the drivers will identify quicker routes, but for those who make the U-turns, it is anticipated to take on average an extra minute and a half. Moving on to our partial signal option. We mark this option as satisfactory for local access because it allows that westbound left turn that is well utilized. This option is less ideal on our other criteria. It will slow down traffic going east. It will also not meet applicable criteria for slowing down that traffic. It will also slow down the transit system some, but not dramatically. We also need to point out that we have some safety concerns with this option. While we've advanced this design to have the best strategy we can on prohibiting illegal movements, we are still concerned that the northbound left could still occur illegally, and that poses a safety concern for us. So you can see we have this pork chop here and this concrete curb and this barrier, and we are concerned that this northbound left turn could still occur. And again, we've advanced this design to minimize the likelihood of that being possible, but we can't eliminate it with providing that westbound left turn. This option is also not great on cost. If this was the right choice, I'm confident we could find the funds to make this happen, but this does cost more than our other options. Now the shared lane option. While this option performs well in a couple of categories for reasons that are similar to options we have already reviewed, let's talk about where it doesn't perform well: safety. This has a conflict point between the buses and general traffic for that westbound left turn movement. This conflict point is unexpected and difficult for drivers and bus operators to negotiate and understand. We have advanced this concept to understand how we could slow down the transit system and traffic to reduce the frequency in which that conflict would occur. However, we have not identified a way to eliminate that conflict point, or a way that we can properly establish expectations for drivers on how to consistently, safely navigate this configuration. So next, we take all this criteria and stack it up next to each other so we can gain a picture of how it might be best to move forward. We're going to start at the bottom here with the shared lane option. The shared lane option is really off the table. Sometimes we implement configurations we have reservations on so that we can provide more local access. This is not the time or the place to set aside our reservations with this option for a couple of reasons. Traffic on 4700 South is moving fast, which makes stakes far too high to set aside our reservations regarding safety. Also, I mentioned earlier that 2 fatalities have occurred at this location. One of those fatalities was between a bus and a passenger vehicle. This option, the shared lane option, would make that type of crash more likely in the future, and that is off the table for us. Next, the partial lane option. We propose not moving forward with this option for 2 reasons: because it slows down eastbound traffic and it doesn't meet the criteria to slow down eastbound traffic, but also because we are concerned about those illegal movements that we cannot prevent to our satisfaction. Then third, the ultimate configuration. We propose we move forward with this option for 2 primary reasons. It reduces the likelihood of past fatalities reoccurring, and also because it keeps buses and east-west traffic lanes moving. So where do we go from here? The next step, we've discussed this as a team and we're building a consensus on it. But as we've been doing it, we've identified that it's necessary to get input from the public as we are building this consensus. So we come here to listen to you, our stakeholders, and bring that input back to our team. And that can help us gain perspective on how we want to move forward and build a consensus. As I mentioned earlier, the decision that we move forward here with needs to be a consensus between the three entities that own facilities involved in this decision. And that is Utah Transit Authority for the bus lanes, UDOT for the general traffic lanes, and Taylorsville for 1175 West. So we'll be collecting this input and feedback, and we'll make sure to communicate where we go from here and how we incorporate that feedback into our plans going forward. We'll be making funding determinations and grant application strategy choices on how we obtain the funding to be able to construct the project next year. We'll also be obtaining our environmental clearances, and assuming all of that goes well, we will be finishing our design and moving into construction in 2023. It would be a 2-year construction period, so that would not finish until toward the end of 2025. Amalia?
Thank you, Marcus. So pictured here on the screen is the way that you can connect with us after tonight's meeting. So you can visit our project website at midvalleyconnector.com. You're also welcome to send us an email, which is info@midvalleyconnector.com, or give us a phone call at 801-901-7888. So we will now be taking any comments or questions. Another quick reminder, please use the raise your hand feature at the bottom of your screen if you would like to ask a question verbally, so a member of our team can unmute you, or you can use the Q&A button also at the bottom of your screen to type a question. So thank you again to our attendees for joining. This really concludes the presentation elements of tonight, but we're happy to take any questions from our attendees. I see that we have a great group of you online. It's great to see so many people joining us today. We are happy to take any questions that anyone has. So just a reminder, okay, great. We do have one question. So I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. Olia Christiansen, please excuse me if I mispronounced your name. I am going to allow you to speak.
So are you planning to remove the Four Lakes golf course? Like, what do you mean by redevelopment the golf course?
So Marcus, the question is about development at the golf course. Do you maybe want to talk about kind of previous discussions related to that? Maybe Ben might chime in as well.
Yeah, I'd love Ben's input here. To be clear, there are no plans to redevelop the golf course. There are no plans for that. However, it is understood that it could happen in the future. And in the event that were to occur, then it is envisioned that a roadway could be connected here. Does that clarify that? And Ben, do you want to provide more insight on that?
We would leave it to the golf course for when that develops and when a road connection there would be made.
Thank you. Julio, did you have any follow-up to that, or did that help answer your question?
So for right now, it would just stay how it is.
Yes, that is correct.
And then for the construction on 4700 South, are you going to like expand the road and take more like grass areas on the side? Like what is the like width gonna be?
That's a great follow-up question. Newell, do you want to help us out with some of those design details?
Yeah, thanks for the question. To accommodate the new bus lanes, the median that's currently grass would be paved, and the bus lanes would occupy that space. And there are some areas where the road would need to be widened a little bit to the mostly to the north, but it stays generally within the existing footprint of the roadway.
Thank you, Newell. Olia, I'm going to go ahead and move on to our the other questions we had from the team, but feel free to go ahead and ask another question after we get through some of these others. I'm going to go ahead and move to Tammy. Tammy, you can go ahead and unmute. Tammy Parker. There should be something on your screen, Tammy, that asks you to unmute yourself.
I did. I unmuted.
We can hear you now. Perfect.
Okay. All right. So if I understand this correctly, you would close off 1175 and open up 1300 West.
Marcus, do you want to go ahead and clarify that detail for us?
So a new signal would be put in at 1300 West, and there would be no access to the community to the north here. It would just allow us, it would allow east-west movements and full access to the golf course, but it would also allow that U-turn, right? When we, let me get to the right option here. So at 1175 West, we would put a barrier down the middle. So when you come up here, you see concrete right there, so you know that you can't make a left turn there anymore, and you would come and you'd make a right turn, and then 1300 West would have a signal here. Again, no access to the north, only access to the golf course to the south, and then you'd make a U-turn, and then you'd be able to complete your movement. Is there a different movement that would be helpful to walk through?
No, that makes more sense. But don't you think about with U-turns with the speed that's already along 4700 is going to cause more accidents right there at that intersection?
It's a really good question. And at this intersection, it would be a signalized movement. And it's not going to be just a green ball that says you have to guess when you can get a gap in traffic. It'll be a green arrow. So you know when traffic is clear for you. And so there will no longer be these unprotected movements where you're having to negotiate angles and you can't see very well. This will be a much more controlled, it will take longer. On average, it will take an extra minute and a half, but it is anticipated to reduce crashes because we are relocating all of these uncontrolled movements into controlled movements that generally have fewer crashes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to a written question we received from Jared Dalton. Can you speak on some of the original goals of the project, like transit speeds or faster bus speed overall? Marcus, my first thought is to start with you on that one.
Yeah, so a lot of the goals of the project have been to provide these really great connections between our system and Salt Lake Community College. Also, in the studies that were done previously, there was an analysis that showed that putting in these bus lanes would improve travel time and reliability going forward. And I mean, I think a lot of us have a good feel for 4700 South that this road moves, right? People go pretty quick and you don't have to stop very often. But what's projected into the future is that could start to slow down. And that's when you're really going to start to see the travel time benefits of having these exclusive bus lanes.
Thank you, Marcus. I'm going to go ahead and move to another verbal question. And this is for Dennis. Dennis, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, hi. First, thanks to the panel. A lot of good work done. Thanks to Ben White of the city of Taylorsville for participating. That's great to hear that. I love the ultimate plan. There's only one small thing I would suggest, but I think it's minor and I think it's good as is. But on 1175 West, how you had the concrete in a little V where it really eliminated somebody from turning left from the north. Just my only concern would be possible wrong way driver. Yeah, putting that up into the ultimate, that little V up there on the top of 1175, just to prevent people from turning left into traffic, which we see a lot of. That's been the course of business for a lot of Utahns lately. It seems to go the wrong way. So anything we could do to reduce that. But I think it looks like a great entrance to the city of Taylorsville, which is fabulous. And the landscaping and stuff looks terrific. So back to my question, it's really not about the plan, except for that little V, I've looked online, I didn't see it annotated anywhere on, will there be some more beautification along the side streets? I see sidewalks kind of there. I don't know if I saw bike lanes. As well as maybe sound wall or beautification walls where it bumps up into the residential areas. Because this is the entrance, one of our major entrances to Taylorsville. So that's why I'm asking.
Well, do you want to share any of those details with us?
Yeah, thanks for the questions. So on the north side of the road along 4700 South is a multi-use path. So it's a wider path that to accommodate both pedestrians and bicyclists. And there's also enhanced landscaping all along 4700 South. So you can see kind of that beige colored area between the sidewalk, the path, and the roadway. Those are all opportunities for landscaping, and the current landscaping concept is it's a really nice concept. And then there are areas also along the north where we'll be installing a privacy wall, and so the wall ends up retaining a little bit of the roadway prism, and then there's a 6-foot privacy wall on top of that retaining wall as well. So, and that's along the north, along most of the length of the most of this section of 4700 South.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Ben, do you want to speak to the extensive planning and work that the city has done to make that happen? It really is impressive what the city's been doing to lay the groundwork for that.
The landscaping is a high priority for the city. As you mentioned, Dennis, this is a gateway to the city, and we want to make this just as attractive as we can. And as Noel mentioned, particularly along the residential properties, we're wanting to protect their privacy as much as possible. And we will be installing a wall similar to you see on many.
Like we lost Ben's connection. I think what he was getting at, though, is that Taylorsville City has installed that privacy fence on a number of corridors within the city. I know I personally have seen it and, been a part of projects where that's included. So sorry about Ben's audio there, but hopefully that helps answer your question, Dennis. Any follow-up?
No, it did. That's very good. I think he was going to say they recently I don't know how recent, but they recently on 3900 South, they put some privacy and beautification fences up there, which were really added to the area. So I think Ben was going to talk to like that as similar to wall to those areas on like 39.
I'm not sure we quite addressed your question on the pork chop. Were you speaking in opposition to the pork chop or in favor?
No, I was
of the pork
speaking in
chop?
favor of that, to add that to the ultimate.
That we should take this and bring it in to this. Yeah, we'll definitely take that comment.
Just my opinion, maybe talk to the safety folks, just to eliminate that head-on possibility of someone turning left from the north. That's all. I think it's a great. I think the ultimate is great. That's the only thing I saw that I thought it might, in my mind, be an improvement. Maybe not. It's up to smarter people than I.
Well, and we have one of those people who are smarter than me regarding this. I don't know about you, but she knows a lot about traffic and safety elements. Megan, do you want to share any thoughts on bringing the pork chop into the other options, or?
That's what we call that, Dennis, by the way, that little triangle. We call it a pork chop. And so that's a.
It's not a great name, but it's what we call it.
Oh, I just want to thank you for your thoughts, and I think it's something we can definitely look into. And I am definitely not smarter. I just wanted to put that on record. So
just me, not others. Just me.
Nope, still, but no, I just, definitely thank you for stepping up and saying that. We appreciate it.
Okay, Dennis, thank you for your comments. I'm going to go ahead and move on to another question. We have a question, written question. I think this is from Michael Frew. I think we need to stop turning left going north on 1175 West. I don't think we should be allowed onto 47th unless it is east or west. The traffic is driving 60 to 70 miles per hour at 1175 West. Anything to add there from our team, Megan or Marcus? Definitely thank you for the comment. Michelle, I'm sorry, I misread Michelle Frew. Apologize.
So it sounds like they're supportive of eliminating left turn movements, and they're providing the additional context of just it is so difficult to make these movements when traffic is going so fast. You know, I think that, yeah, we definitely agree. And the option that we're proposing to move forward with is to eliminate all left turn movements at 1175 West, as well as the north-south through movements. And so
there is one follow-up from Michelle requesting if Sienna condos can install a sound wall and how can they stop cars from driving into their homes. We are looking at the exact address for Sienna condos, but I don't know, Ben, if you know where those are specifically.
We can certainly look into it, whether it's part of the BRT or a separate project.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. We'll just go ahead and take that comment and look into that. And we do have a full record of all the comments that are being received. So if you're interested in a response back to that, feel free to shoot us an email and we'll put our contact information up again, but it's just info@midvalleyconnector.com and provide your contact info and we can get back to you specifically on that item. Okay, I have another verbal question back to Olio Christiansen. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak and then go ahead and unmute yourself.
So I'm wondering, you just put in buses, you don't have plans to put like any kind of rail? Or it's just the buses, is that correct?
Marcus, yes, this is a bus rapid transit project. And so we adopt some of the successful elements from our rail projects, because one of the reasons why we like rail so much is because it's reliable and we can see where it's going and it's much more visible. And part of the reason why that exists and that happens is because the bus is running, or the train vehicles are running in their own right of way, in their own corridor, in their own space. And so it's harder for people to get in the way, and it's much more reliable and a higher quality. And so we adopt some of those elements with bus rapid transit so that the buses can operate at a higher quality like the rail. But when we do it with buses, we can do it much more cost effectively, and we can do it much more flexibly. We're able to add on to the project in the future in much simpler ways and be more incremental in our projects, which allows us to do things on corridors like this one.
May I just clarify with you too, that we
Please.
have BRT on 3500 South in West Valley, and then also down in Provo and Orem. So if you're interested in looking what this looks like in action, those would be two locations to check that out.
Yeah, and this project is almost a hybrid of those two. Of course, 3500 South is really close to this area and so easy to see. And you'll see these center platforms in the middle of the road on 3500 South. However, the platforms on this project will be a little bit different. Visually, they'll be different. They'll be a little bit larger. And also, this project will have exclusive lanes both directions for all 1.4 miles. While Max, sometimes the buses had to share lanes going in both directions. And so if you ride that, you'll see how every once in a while you have to wait for the other bus to pass. And so we'll be able to operate this one in a little bit more reliable way, or a significantly more reliable way. And then UVX down in Utah County, Provo and Orem, is kind of one of our premier systems, and we're really proud of what we've accomplished there. And we have many of the similar elements on this project as we have on that one.
Thank you, Marcus. Olia, any follow-up to that?
No.
Okay, thank you for your comments.
I'll just note, I know that rail would be more exciting, but if you want to get excited about this, go ride UVX in Provo and Orem, and you'll get some excitement. We don't have quite as long of bus lanes on this project, but still, you'll get kind of that taste of it.
We did receive a question from Rob Totten requesting a copy of the slides. Rob, if you'll just send over an email to us at info@midvalleyconnector.com, we'll send you a PDF of the slides. But as I mentioned in the beginning, we are going to post a recording of this meeting on the project website as well. And so that would be another way to view that information. We had a fun comment from Dennis that said, as long as ours is the best BRT in Utah. So thank you, Dennis, for that positivity. We appreciate that. Any follow-up questions or comments from our attendees? You're welcome to make a verbal comment. Thank you, Tammy. I'm going to go ahead and allow you to speak and unmute yourself. Go ahead. Tammy, if you just click the unmute button, there you go.
Okay. Along 4700, and somebody might have already asked this, I'm not sure. On the north and the south side, is there going to be a sound wall and a sidewalk put in?
Newell, do you want to run through those details for us, please?
Yeah. So on the north side, there will be a multi-use path. So kind of an enlarged sidewalk and privacy walls similar to other areas within Taylorsville. On the south side, there are large stretches of sidewalk being put in, and then also that ties into the existing sidewalk.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
If you're curious about a specific spot, what we're doing, feel free to email us, and we can get into those details a little bit more specifically, because it does change throughout the project corridor.
I was curious if Ben could clarify maybe some areas in the city that have a newer privacy fence that folks on the line could maybe look at?
3,200 west between 54th South and 62 is the most recent one that we've constructed.
Right. We've seen that one.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you, Tammy.
Thank you.
So there is a loud protest going on outside my window. And so if you hear a lot of outside chatter, I apologize. There is a note in the chat from Michelle. If a person has to cross 4700 South to get to a bus stop, they will be run over before they get to the bus stop. We need some kind of a stoplight. Marcus, do you want to just clarify where the stoplights are planned in this stretch of 4700?
Yeah, this is a big focus for us. So thank you for asking us about it. So at Atherton, we have a station, and we make sure that throughout the project corridor, anywhere we are putting in a station, we focus quite a bit on the pedestrian facilities and making sure that there's good connectivity. And so these will be signalized crossings to be able to get into the station here. So that's at Atherton. On the westbound side. If you go further down, I don't have it open right now, but on the east side of Atherton, we also have a station with pedestrian crossings that are signalized to be able to get there. Also at the Four Lakes Golf Course, we have another station also with signalized crossings to be able to access the station. So you'll be seeing some new crosswalks. If we go to this location in just Google Earth to see what it looks like right now, let me get there. And you have quite a bit of distance where there is nowhere to cross 4700 South. And of course, 4700 South is a limited access road. So there's not that many places that pedestrians are, or there's several places where it's limited where pedestrians come in. But right now you don't have a crossing from Redwood Road all the way until you get to Atherton. And even on Atherton, we just have this one crossing there. Now we'll additionally have the crossing opportunity at 1300 West. And so which is very important to us because again, we have that station. So here's a location where we have those stops on either side of the road, and that'll be brought into the middle. And so it won't have the same limitations as the existing condition. So we are very concerned about pedestrian safety, and we're making efforts to reduce the likelihood of any problems with that access.
Thank you for your comment, Michelle. Any other comments from our attendees? Any verbal comments or written comments, or you could also place them in the chat, whatever is most convenient for you. Again, we'd like to thank all of our attendees for joining us this evening, and we will be posting a recording of this meeting on our project website. And you're also welcome to send us an email or call us for any further questions, comments, or requests. We're planning to stay on the line for a few more minutes, but really that concludes the presentation. So if you're interested in dropping off, you're more than welcome to, but we are going to stay on at least till 7, and feel free to answer any more questions that any of our attendees have. Marcus, do you mind just zooming out to the ultimate option, please? I forgot ultimate configuration, and we can see the whole thing. Thank you. Thank you again to our panel team. We appreciate your time this evening, and we like to provide this virtual opportunity to engage with the neighborhood and community. And thank you again to all of our attendees for joining us. I don't see any more questions coming in, Marcus. But we'll go ahead and stay on the line for 5 or 6 more minutes. Oh, I see one in the chat here. Thank you so much. From Jay, you may have answered this, but when will construction begin? Do you want to maybe go back to that timeline slide?
Oh yeah, we have a slide for that.
Mhm.
So construction would begin in 2023. And this is assuming that we are able to get all of our funding in place and our environmental clearances complete.
So that would be the soonest.
Yeah. Mhm.
And we want to keep you informed about kind of the progress of this project. And so we did collect your email addresses as part of the registration process. So we'll plan to keep you informed as the project progresses and keep your email for that reason. We have another comment in the chat from Michelle. Can Sienna condos install a barrier so cars cannot come through into Sienna condos on 4700 South? So 4700 South, 1175 West, just to the west is where Sienna condos are. And so, Mark, can you
Sienna
confirm?
Way.
Yep, right in there when we checked out Google. Newell, we have a privacy fence planned for the south side or just the north side? You're on mute.
Sorry. Currently is planned just for the north side.
And that's that we can look into this more, but I believe that was associated with the retaining that was necessary and our impacts to the existing fences on that side because we were widening to the north. Am I understanding that right, Newell?
Yeah, that's correct.
We're impacting these existing fences, and so.
Megan, can we look at the detail of the accident history related on the south side there? There was some sort of accident where the driver left the roadway and went down into the homes there.
Yeah, we can absolutely look into it.
Okay. Michelle, we'll look closer at that accident and thank you for your comments. It's something that we'll look into. The current plans show that a wall is planned for the north side, but we'll thank you for your comments and we'll take that into consideration. We have another comment. Do you know if the bus schedule would be aligned at all to coincide with tracks or front runner stations? I'm concerned about having to sprint to the front runner platform.
Yeah, we were just talking to our service planning, and they've told us that a lot of times their target for timing is to actually be in between the tracks trains, so that you don't end up in that situation of having to sprint for the train. I can't speak to those specific schedules yet. That is a detail that we figure out in our operations planning. And we aren't at that point yet, but I can say, oh, we have Russ on the line. Russ, do you want to speak to this at all?
No, you were starting to go down the path of once the schedule and everything gets established, then yeah, our operations planning team will look at the timing and things like that. So that would be once everything gets constructed, then we would try to establish that timing for the buses and the front runner and tracks.
Front runner just left me behind yesterday, and I was literally sprinting. So we understand your concern.
And it's a great comment. I recently sat through a presentation with the operations team related to a different area of UTA service, and they really go into so much effort and thought as they think through how all the systems are going to connect with each other. Thank you so much. Any follow-up questions in the chat or the Q&A section or even verbally? We're coming up on 7 o'clock at 6:59, but happy to take one more question if there is one. Again, thank you to our panel team. This was helpful tonight. And Marcus, do you mind going to the slide with our contact information, and we'll just go ahead and close with that information. In case anybody wants to take a picture of it with their phone or a screenshot on their computer, this is how you can connect with us. So again, it's midvalleyconnector.com is our website. You can email us at info@midvalleyconnector.com or give us a call at 801-901-7888. Okay, that concludes our presentation this evening. Thank you again to all of our attendees for joining us. And we will post a recording on the project website, and you're welcome to connect with us using these means here shown on the screen. Thank you again to our panel team, and I will go ahead and end the meeting now. Thank you so much, all.